Welcome back to another PODMAS episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host, Maxine, and we're on PODMAS episode 10. PODMAS episode 10. We're just 2 episodes away, and then it's the new year. Okay. I gotta be honest here with you guys. I'm an asshole. Okay, I see. I'll check with you guys tomorrow again. No, I am an asshole. Yeah, I could admit that. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because just a few episodes ago, I was laying it on thick on my coworkers, on my particular Sacred Santa. And I was mad. I was mad because of a plethora of things. I was really mad. My anger was triggered because of the lack of community that I was experiencing in that moment, because no one was showing up for our planned lunch that was supposed to be had as a gratitude. And that just kind of flopped, and we ended up getting our lunch much later, and we didn't get a chance to eat together in community, and that really just bothered me. So that was like the triggering point, and I got to talking about my Secret Santa and how I was just so disappointed in the gifts that I received, because the very first gift that I received was the Sour Patch Kids. Sour Patch Kids. And I didn't want Sour Patch Kids. Hello? Was my mic on? I didn't write down Sour Patch. Sour Patch Kids is alright. It's alright if I'm at the movie theater and I have, I just want to nib on something. But that's not what I listed. And it made me feel like this person did not care to really follow what I had written. So that really bothered me. And the gifts after were I just felt like it lacked intention, it lacked care. And in those moments, I was feeling like this person just doesn't give a fuck, right? Like, doesn't give a fuck about what I asked for, what I cared to receive. And I just felt like I was just thinking the worst, which I know I have a tendency of doing. So I am absolutely aware. And I thought the worst. The worst meaning, as soon as any gift was given to me, here's another way to disappoint me. Here's another way to not follow what I have laid out. Here's another way to not meet my expectations. And so that was that's the context, in case you did not listen and you're listening to this out of order. So yeah, that's the context, and I'm referencing the Secret Santa fail episode, in case you don't know. So yeah, that's the context. The reason why I say I'm an asshole is not because I have feelings. I think, because even after I recorded and felt my feelings and published that episode, I was still like, okay, these are my feelings, this is what it is. And I was happy I let it out, because afterwards I felt rejuvenated in a way. Like, once I let it out, I feel good. So that was fine. It wasn't until a few days ago, from when you hear this episode, that I received a gift from my Secret Santas, my last gift, because we were supposed to give 3 gifts in increments to our person. And she revealed herself to me, and my guess was correct. And she was actually supposed to give the gift to me on the last day of work before break. She ended up forgetting to pack my gift with her to work. And in my head again, what am I doing? Thinking the worst. Like, okay, great. Of course you forgot about me. Of course. I'm immediately, but I'm not saying this out loud, of course, right? I'm listening to her explanation, and she finding a way to make it up to me and all that stuff. But in my head, I'm thinking the worst. Like, okay, of course you forgot about me. Of course you're not caring enough to be intentional with me. Of course I'm not enough for you to do all these things. Okay, so this is like my mindset, what's going on in my head, and why I felt so heavily in that emotion. So she delivered her third Secret Santa gift to me, which is obviously not a secret anymore, and it was everything I listed. literally everything, because again, we all filled out a short slip that asks for our favorite hobby, our favorite thing to do, favorite restaurant, favorite candy, favorite chocolate, favorite color, like all of our like favorites that we'll list out. And she gave me a big bag. She delivered a big bag. When I picked it up from my concierge guy, it was a heavy bag. And I'm thinking like, dang, what she put in here? It's just the final gift. Like, why? What could be inside of here? It's the correct Sour Punch candy, the Sour Punch straws, not Sour Patch Kids. And like, it's 5 packs of those. That's one, right? So it's 5 packs of the correct candy. It's Reese's cups that I also listed, has my favorite things. Extra chocolate that she just wanted to stash me with. Popcorn. And I didn't even say I wanted popcorn, but popcorn was so... it was right on time, actually, because I was thinking about getting popcorn to stash in my home. And I also like to snack on popcorn when I'm at work. And she will know that because she'll eat popcorn at work as well. And she'll share with me. So she's aware of that. She gave me an extra set of coasters that I didn't even ask for, but these coasters were so cute and trendy. They're this vinyl record type of coaster, like literally, but not like a real big one, but fitting to a coaster. She also gave me a card, a sentiment. Oh my gosh, I don't want to cry, but she gave me a sentimental card. And she recently, okay, hold on, give me a second. She recently experienced a loss in her family. A cousin of hers passed away, and this was almost a month ago at this point. And I gave her a card during this time and just, lifted her up in prayer and in words and was just supportive emotionally. And, I gave her a card just from me. It wasn't like from a group of people and I signed my name on it, which is fine. Some people do that, but I wanted her to feel like I specifically was thinking about you or am thinking about you, and I'm here for you, and I know how it feels to lose a cousin, because you all know I lost Joanna in 2020, April 15th. And like, it's incredibly hard grieving anyone. So I felt for her, and I gave her that card, and I was super just like, I want her to feel like, I'm supportive of her. And so when she gave me a card, including the Secret Santa gift, in the card, she referenced how the card that I gave her helped her. Like, it lifted her up. Okay. I'm about to stop this fucking recording. It lifted her up. It gave her encouragement. She was like, just like referencing like different moments that made her feel good from just the relationship that we have, and included in the card just like very sentimental things that just really meant a lot. It was very thoughtful, which is what I thought she lacked, right, from the gift giving. It was very thoughtful. It was very intentional. Like, I felt the card. I felt the intent. Everything was right on. And included in the card was a Cheesecake Factory gift card. And that was what I listed, y'all. Like, I want cheesecake. I love Cheesecake Factory. As far as like some of their menu items I really enjoy eating. And so the fact that she gave me a Cheesecake Factory card amongst all of the other things that I requested from my list, in like, she packaged it in this big bag. Like, she did not need to give me all of that. She could have just given me a small token, right, just to complete the 3 trifecta gift giving, but instead she went above and beyond. And to that I say, I'm an asshole. And I do want to give myself grace, because like, yeah, sure, in those moments initially I felt like, oh, it wasn't intentional, or like it just felt like her gift, like, when I tell you the first bag that again, I still want to say I'm an asshole, because like, damn, I feel bad, because the last gift that she gave me was just amazing, but like, the first gift was just, first of all, anyway, we laughed about that though, because when she revealed herself to me as my Secret Santa, she said how little Invisalign that was in my bag just slipped. Like, we laughed about that. But in that moment, prior to her revealing herself to me, I just felt a hit in my stomach. Like, I instantly thought the worst. Like, dang, I got matched with a Secret Santa who could care less about what I want and was carelessly, recklessly dropping some of their belongings in my bag. And I just was thinking all of those thoughts rather than giving said person the grace that they deserved. And I do feel bad about that. I feel bad that I go to the worst and I immediately think of just the worst or I attach horrible attributes to people whom don't deserve it. And yes, I get it. Some people are deserving of shitty things. Like, as far as like some people deserve a shit talking. You know what I mean? But when I think about this person in particular, she has been nothing but a great colleague, friend of mine, and I'm shitty. I could be shitty at times. I do recognize that, and I am humble enough to be aware of that. And I just hope she doesn't listen to this episode or previous episode. But look, she knows who I am though, and she also, so she's a Leo, I'm an Aquarius, as you all know, and she has another person in her life, in her family actually, who's an Aquarius as well. So she knows how we are. Like, we have these kind of set expectations about ourselves, and not to pull the whole zodiac excuse. I get a lot of people don't like that or don't find any relevance with that. And not to say I live my life by my zodiac sign. Like, oh, I'm gonna wake up every day, read my horoscope. No, I don't. I really don't. But I can't lie and say that there aren't any attributes of an Aquarius that I definitely align with, that I see to be a trend amongst, within myself and amongst other Aquarius women whom I've had a relationship with. So I think with that being said, I feel like there's an understanding that she has of me. So even if she does come across this episode and previous episode, look, I'll be woman enough to come to her and explain it and everything. But I wanted to come on here and say that, yeah, I am an asshole. I could be an asshole. And I was feeling bad after the recording, after the initial recording. Not bad, like, okay, so I felt good because I let out my emotion and all of that, but I felt bad because I felt like, I lost my train of thought. Why did I feel bad? Basically, I felt bad because I felt like, I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, no, okay. I felt bad because I felt like I was not giving grace to this person, or I was again thinking the worst, and I was trying to quiet that emotion because I wanted to own my feelings. Like, no, I have a right to feel how I felt, and I feel like, yes, we all have a right to feel how we feel. Of course, we are entitled to our feelings, but I was making myself feel bad for that. You know what I mean? Like, I was making myself feel bad for having expectations and being disappointed for being disappointed. Like, I was making myself feel bad for being so upset over the community gathering that didn't happen. Like, I was really upset about that, but I was making myself feel bad for being upset about that, like, for not letting that go and not making it a big deal, when it's like, look, everyone's different. I get that, but I also, like, I think my feelings do matter when it comes to, like, just feeling in general. Now, when I take it to a point when I'm being an asshole to other people, yes, that's not okay. And that's not something that I want to continue. So I will be more aware of that and will be actively improving that. And I just want to not make myself feel bad for my feelings, though. So I guess I'm trying to find an even balance when it comes to that, because at the same time as I was feeling upset for the community gathering not happening amongst my department team, and feeling like I take everything so personal. I think that's what it is. I take everything so personal, and that's sometimes a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. And seeing my colleagues at that time just be in their own isolated bubble and not really show the same expression that I was, or that I was feeling but trying to hold out from showing, because I don't, you're at your workplace, so you don't want to show too much, I guess. Maybe that's how my colleagues was doing too, but there was no one, and like my perspective again is coming from, like, none of them like was coming to my classroom, which is where we normally meet for meetings. None of them was coming to my classroom to try to see what was going on. Well, some of them were. Let me not say that. No. Well, of course I wouldn't go to the whole being exaggerated point. Like, girl, you saw me at your classroom. I get it. I don't know. I guess I'm just like thinking about how I felt in that moment and how much I exacerbated. And that's what it is. I have a tendency of exacerbating feelings that didn't need to be as big as it was internally. I didn't express it out loud, which is why I held it in until I finally recorded it, and I felt good afterwards because I let it out. But overall, I think, yes, we should feel our feelings, but we should be able to check it. And that's something that I'm working on, and I recognize that it's a fault of mine. But yeah, like, so when she went out of her way to drop off her gift to me at my apartment complex. I went downstairs to pick it, like, so for all of that, for me to feel how I felt earlier, and sure, it's an evolution of feelings. You grow in your feelings and all that, but I just immediately felt like an asshole. Like, damn, I'm trash for kind of shitting on her. I mean, I don't want to say I was shitting on her, but I was just shitting on I was thinking the worst. And I was going to the worst thought. And that is immediately assuming that this person, whom I didn't know for sure, but I had a strong feeling it was this person, just didn't care to be intentional with me. And I think it comes from this place of still feeling, or still growing from the idea that no one really cares about me, in a sense. Like, no one really goes out of their way to show their intention and care towards me. So my mind immediately goes to that worst thought. Now, is that thought real? No, not necessarily, but again, when you create high expectations for yourself, it makes it difficult for the other person to really meet it, because I'm learning that we all demonstrate ourselves differently, right? The way I demonstrate in my intention with the way I carefully choose my words, or, most times at least. Other people may demonstrate who they are in their time giving to you, in their prioritizing with you. So I jump from, if you don't meet me the way I meet myself, or the way I meet others, then you can't meet me at all. You can never please me. Like, that's where I come from, and that's not fair. So I'm recognizing that, and we all know that love language is a term that is being used every second of the day on every episode of Ready to Love. What's your love language? I don't know. The fuck? Gift giving? I don't know. It's like, I do know my love language. Quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation. Top 3. Like, they're equal for me. And prior to getting comfortable with that language, it's also about knowing that everyone show up differently. And when I think about love language, I specifically think about romantic jest, like in a romantic setting. But I need to recognize that in friendship, in professionalship, in family, there are love languages there that can be recognized, that can be met. Basically, what I'm saying is, I need to, and maybe you guys too who are listening, thank you, need to recognize that we all show up for people in our own way, and to be open to that, and to accept that, and to embrace that, and all of that. But yeah, I do want to give myself grace. This is not shit Maxine episode, so relax. Don't be over here copying your hand like, yeah, girl, you are an asshole. Relax. But yeah, I am very humble enough to say, yeah, shit, I was a little bitch. I was a little bitch. But anyway, let's move on. Speaking of masturbation, what? Who is speaking of masturbation? No, so when I said exacerbate, I immediately thought this is a great segue to this next topic. Whew. So let's get into this. Might be a heavy talk. And you might want to skip no. I don't like giving disclaimers. The fuck, if we here, we here, right? If we're here, we're here. So let's talk about Billie Eilish, who I don't really know like that. I know she's this curvaceous, not fat though. She's just thick, big bone type of, not big bone, but she's thick. She's a pretty girl. Pretty white girl. I don't know where she's from. She's young. I believe she's 20. And she is known for her emo music. Very kind of, I want to say borderline satanic. But look, this is generation, what is this? I think she's generation XYZ. Well, I don't know which one it is. But she's popping amongst that generation. She's a pretty girl. I give her that. And but I don't really know her songs like that, and maybe I have heard her songs, but I didn't know it was her. I also don't know her vocal ability, because when I've seen clips of her songs, it's super auto-tune, and she's doing this there's no range for me to hear, oh my gosh, she could really pull that note. I don't really hear that. Maybe I'm not from... Look, I know my friend Allegra knows Billie Eilish, so I'm sure she's talking shit right now about me, about this topic. No, but I really don't... I'm not too familiar with her, so whatever. At the end of the day, I think she's a really pretty girl. I give her that. I remember seeing a clip of her on Instagram, and she's doing this dance, and she was popping her booty. She wasn't trying to be black or anything. She was just very natural in who she is, but you could tell she grew up in black culture as well, and she just embraced a lot of different type of music, and she knew black dance moves, so I think she's a pretty cool girl from what I see, from those little snippets that I see. But again, I'm not too familiar with her music. Okay, I want to talk about her in particular because she was giving an interview with Howard Stern. Now, Howard Stern been kind of on a roll, huh? So remember just a previous episode ago, we were talking about Ben Affleck and how he blamed Jennifer Garner for his drinking, for his alcoholism, and said if he was still married to her, he would have still been drinking. Nigga, what? That is insulting. And I basically said in that episode that, yes, I do recognize that there are people, I do believe that there are people who could cause you to drink, essentially. There are people in your life who could bring out the good in you, and there are people in your life who could bring out the bad in you. We don't know Jennifer Gardner. We don't know her personally. She seems like a sweet girl from the outside, right, on surface. But she may be a raging bitch. She may. But again, obviously I'm saying that in jest. And it's not her fault that he struggled with drinking. And I think that was just a cheap shot. Him feeling like, oh, I can't leave the marriage because we have kids. That's just bullshit to me. Nah, niggas, you could divorce. You could sign the papers. Kids will be fine as long as the parents know how to raise them and know how to approach the topic. Of course, the kids are going to feel a shift, but you have to know how to guide them and navigate them through it, and continue to assure them that it's not them. Sometimes kids like to put the blame on themselves. Just continue to reassure them it's not them. Anyway, so obviously he got a divorce. He eventually got out of that trap, right? And I was basically saying that being trapped is mental. You can't blame other people for that. It's a mental thing. Anyway, so Howard Stern had another interview, and this time it was with Billie Eilish. And in this interview, Billie Eilish says to him that at the age of 11, she was exposed to pornography. she explained that she was about 11 when she first saw pornography and that it had given her nightmares and affected her understanding and expectations of what sex should be. She says, and I quote, "I think it really destroyed my brain, and I feel incredibly devastated that I was exposed to so much porn," end quote. This is a heavy ass topic, especially for me, because I had the same experience as far as being exposed to pornography at a young age. I don't know what was the context with Billie Eilish that introduced her to pornography. For me, I was exposed to it when a relative was inappropriately touching me. And while he was touching me, he had pornography playing on the TV. That was the first time I ever seen pornography. That was the first time I ever see dick going into ass, dick going into pussy, like all of that. I remember prior to that moment, I used to watch soap operas a lot with my sister and my mom. We used to watch Passions, and I used to talk about it with some of my classmates in 7th grade. I remember it was around that time. And I was talking to my classmate. I was like, wait, sex is just, we were just talking about sex. And I was referencing a scene from that soap opera, Passions. Who knows Passions? Breathe in, breathe out. Na, 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 na. You are fire burning inside of me. You are my passion for. That was the shit, okay? You want my passion for life? Can I be your passion for life? Okay, I know we're talking about a serious topic, but that was a really good soap opera until it got really corny and then it finally canceled. But that was a really good time. It was a really good time. While I was watching that show, of course, I was young and I didn't know what sex was. Of course, coming from a religious household, sex was not a topic that was approached. It was just don't have sex before marriage and don't get married until you're like, it was just super taboo. Dumb, just really dumb that was handled like that. So I was talking to my classmate at the time and I was saying, yeah, sex is just the guy is on top of the girl and they're under the covers and they're just kissing. And that was really what I thought it was, because in that soap opera, of course, they can't show actual sex scenes of inserting the dick in the pussy and bam, bam, like, and cum being, jerked on the girl's ass and licking and sniffing coke on the crack. Like, that, I wasn't seeing that on NBC, right? I wasn't seeing that. All I saw was these two actors, man and woman. That was before, lesbian and gay porn was a thing on daytime TV. And I saw a man over a woman. They were kissing. They were naked. I knew that. I knew that was a part of the route to having sex or while having sex. And they were under the covers. And then they're just happy, right? Or like they seem to be really enthralled in their passion. That's what I thought sex was. I never knew it was anything more than that. And so my classmate who I was talking to, I guess she was a little bit more experienced than I was, or she just knew more, right? Maybe she just was more educated on the topic. She was like, no, girl, he puts his thing inside of her. And I'm like, wait, what? She was like, yeah, he puts his thing. I think she actually said thing, but I knew what she was referring to. She puts his penis inside of her vagina, and it hurts. It hurts. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh my gosh, it hurt. Like, I was so traumatized just by her telling me that. Like, this exciting time that I would see on TV on this soap opera is actual, it's an actual painful experience. Of course, when you're a virgin, after that, it's painful unless you have, something going on. But anyway, I was so taken aback. I was traumatized. That was a lot. So that was my idea. That was my only exposure to sex, to sexuality, all of that. Okay? Until, and I gotta laugh at this might be weird or triggering to some people, but like I have to laugh to cope. But until I got inappropriately touched by a relative, as he was touching me, he was playing pornography on the TV. And that's when I saw sex for what it was, or in that context. And I saw multiple people on the screen being sexual, fucking, like different types of positions. Like I saw all of that. And after that moment, something triggered in me, like something opened in me, and curiosity was just bam. It was what was leading me for the next few years. Like it started this, I would say, addiction really, since, and I when did he touch me? I want to say it was around 11, y'all. I'm not even too sure. I'm really not too sure. So I want to say around that age, it was a young age. And ever since then, I was watching pornography a lot. I was masturbating a lot. And I used pornography at that time as a way to cope. That was my way to cope. When I was young, and for those who have been raw listeners, and by raw I mean who's been listening from the very beginning of this podcast, shout out to y'all. You'll know that when I was younger, I dealt with a lot of stressful situations as far as my parents, as far as my relationship with my mom at the time, as far as being the youngest in my household and not feeling heard, not feeling seen, me feeling I always had to prove myself, me dealing with bullying in middle school. Like I was dealing with a lot, as I'm sure a lot of other students, as a lot of other kids experience. But in my experience, that's what I was dealing with. So at any given moment of high stress, I went to pornography. I went to masturbation. That was my outlet. That was my way to feel better. And there was this, look, for those who really, let's be honest. I know some people don't like to be honest, which is why I created this podcast, so we could have an honest conversation. There's a high that is experienced after you masturbate, after you have sex, right? Whether it's solo sex or with a person sex. Whether it's with the person whom you have intimate, mutual feelings with, or if it's with a stranger, right? Like I remember during the times of my heydays when I was kind of out there, I would get a high off of just the physical touch aspect. And as soon as the sex was over, I immediately regretted it. With all those niggas before, as soon as the sex was over, I immediately regretted it. And when it came to masturbation at the time, I immediately felt this shame, this guilt. Because, of course, you got to put into context the way I was raised and conditioned to believe that masturbation was a sin, that is dirty, is shameful, and you shouldn't have these thoughts, right? And you definitely shouldn't be watching pornography while having, period. Never mind. So that was what I always felt. That was what I always felt. That was what I always associated with sex. And reading this news of Billie Eilish essentially having some of the same experiences as me. I don't know how she was exposed to pornography, but I figure, when you're exposed to something so adult-like at a young age, it's because something inappropriate is going on. I just naturally go that route. I don't know what else could it be, but of course, I'm not always right. So I don't know exactly how she was exposed to it. But yeah, that's how I was exposed to it. Billie Eilish saying that it really destroyed her brain. That, I get that. For a long time, I struggled with sex. And though I had sex when I, got older, I still did not feel like sex was a thing that was made to increase intimacy. I felt like it was this thing to be manipulative with, to be used as a tool. It was my way to kind of, I don't know, please the guy in a way, especially being younger and thinking that was the only way, that was all I had to offer. So for such a long time, I dealt with those feelings, and finally, thank God there's a shift. Thank God I don't feel that way anymore. I feel more empowered with who I am today and not feeling like I need to have sex in order to be validated. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm also grateful that I don't have a partner who makes me feel cheap or anything. So that's great. But yeah, I know how pornography could warp someone's mind, especially if you're introduced to it the way that I was. So the question that I asked here that I wrote down is, how do you teach sex to children? How do you appropriately go about this topic without them being approached by an inappropriate act done to them, and that being a way for them to be introduced to this topic, right? Like, had I not been inappropriately touched when I was younger, and during that time been exposed to pornography, and since then for a period of time was addicted to pornography and masturbation, how else would I have learned sex, right? Like, what other avenue was there for me? Because my parents weren't at all talking to me about it. My older siblings weren't doing that. It wasn't a thing. So, I asked that question because it's necessary for us to discuss this topic in a way that is appropriate for children, for the youth, so that they know what's good touch and what's bad touch. They know what we see on pornography sites. This is a fantasy. This is not real. And to not expect this, or to not create an expectation of this, a fantasy of this, even that, to not create that in our reality, because it really messes up the way that you communicate with a partner. It makes you feel like, oh, you have to look like these girls who's getting all these guys fucking her, right? Or it makes you question your own self. It's really strange how things are set up to fuck with us psychologically. And until we get out of that headspace, we're not able to realize what it was and the agenda behind it. I mean, at this point, I should just rename this podcast and call it The Agenda Exposure or whatever. Because I'm realizing the agenda behind a lot of things, yo. It's so crazy to me. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you all for listening to another PODMAS episode of God Built This Podcast, and I'll check in with you all tomorrow again.